What's going on, everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Some of you might be aware, but Acer is getting into the handheld gaming space with their brand new ACER Nitro Blaze 7. So what we've got here is a Ryzen-powered handheld with a 7-inch display. But what if I was to tell you that this device already exists on the market? Albeit there are a few little differences here and there, and I'm not talking about a totally different device from, let's say, a Neo or 1X with the same specs. Of course, we've seen a lot of handhelds with a 7-inch display, a Ryzen 8000 series CPU. I'm saying that this device has been on the market for about 8 months already, from a company out of China known as Terrans Force, and they call it the Handle 5. Like I mentioned, there are some key spec differences here, but they were originally going to release one known as the Handle 7 with the same exact specs as the ACER Blaze. But I guess Acer said, hey, we'll buy this from you. I'm not exactly sure how that works. And I'm not knocking anybody. I mean, this is actually a good strategy. A lot less R&D. Somebody's already got something made. Somebody's got something that works. So in some circumstances, this can make a lot of sense for a company to go ahead and do this. They do offer this in 2 different color variants. They've got the black and the white. And I've actually got the white version right here. I took a look at the Handle 5 about 8 months ago on the channel. I'll leave a link to the video down below. There are some differences between this and the Blaze, but the overall design, shell, and everything, it's exactly the same unit. This one here has the Ryzen 7 7840U. The new Blaze is coming in with the Ryzen 7 8840U. We've got the same GPU, so it's the 780M, same amount of RAM. We've got 16 gigs here running at 6400 megahertz, and the screen is a bit different over on the Acer Blaze. With this, we've got a 7-inch 120Hz FreeSync display. With the Acer Blaze, they've upped it to 144Hz, but it's keeping that 7-inch size and FreeSync. And here's some images that Acer officially posted over on their website. You can see, we've got the same exact layout. There's a dual vent system on the rear of this unit. Same button layout. They're both using a 50 watt-hour battery. And just to give you a better idea, here's the side-by-side. Obviously, Acer has kind of spruced it up a bit with some decals, and the only button that's really changed here is the left-hand button under the D-pad. So they've changed it to red. Looks like we've got a little lightning bolt logo instead of a home logo on it, and that's probably going to open up our command center. Of course, Acer will have kind of a proprietary command center here to allow us to adjust the performance on this. I think we're also going to get a game launcher. But all in all, this is the same exact handheld minus that 144Hz display, and the fact that the Blaze is going to be using an 8840U instead of a 7840U. And overall, it's not a bad handheld experience. I had a pretty good time with the Handle 5. It does perform quite well, given that we've got that 7840U. Depending on what kind of wattage you're running this at, it'll play anything that the ROG Ally will play. It's got a 50 watt-hour battery, USB 4, one on the top, one on the bottom, volume rocker, 3.5mm audio jack on the bottom, and we've got a micro SD card reader. It's a pretty comfortable little unit. You can reach all of the buttons quite easily. But yeah, it was just a little odd to see that. Now, as soon as I saw it, I kind of got deja vu, and then I was like, wait a second, I've seen this handheld before. And sure enough, it's the exact same thing as the Handle 5 here, or what they were going to release as the Handle 7. Again, they did have plans on releasing an 8840U upgraded version of this with a 144Hz display, and they were going to call it the Handle 7. So, we had a little bit of an upgrade there from the Handle 5. But going up to 144Hz on an iGPU is definitely a bit overkill. I know some people love seeing that, and they're like, oh, this is better than 120. But when your games can't even reach 120, or let's say even 90, doesn't make much sense. And again, I'm not talking smack about Acer. I'm actually pretty excited to see this, and we have seen what I consider OEM handhelds. Earlier this year in Taipei, a company had a booth with 2 different handhelds. One was going to be powered by an Intel Core, the other by a Ryzen. I think it was a 7840U. A design we really haven't seen on the market. It was kind of a mix between the MSI Claw and the ROG Ally, but basically you could talk to them, say, hey, I need 1,000 of these with my logo on them. They would build them, put your logo on them, and then you could box them up and sell them as your own handheld. This is something that happens quite a bit in the mini PC world. We'll see the exact same PC design from different companies. If you search AliExpress, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. With the popularity of handheld gaming, I think we're going to see more of these Chinese manufacturers come to market with kind of an OEM-based handheld that you could kind of customize yourself for your company and sell it as your own. Now I will say, one thing that this and the new ACER Blaze has going for it is that FreeSync display. That's something that I personally love seeing in these handhelds. It's not going to make your game any faster. You're not going to get a higher frame rate, but when that game can't run at, let's say, 60 FPS, keep a super smooth frame rate, starts dropping down, on a non-FreeSync or a non-VRR display, you're going to see a lot of screen tearing. FreeSync enabled, and obviously we're using a Radeon iGPU, we're not going to get that screen tearing playing something like, let's say, Spider-Man Miles Morales at 45 FPS instead of 60. When it starts dropping down on a non-FreeSync, you'll get that tearing. Really does kind of ruin the game, but with FreeSync enabled, it just keeps it smooth across the board. So real quick, what Acer announced so far is the Nitro Blaze 7. This is going to be powered by the AMD Ryzen 7 8840U. With this, we get 8 cores, 16 threads with a boost up to 5.1 GHz. Also have the RDNA 3 780M iGPU up to 2700 MHz. Right now, they've only announced a single RAM variant, so 16 gigs of LPDDR5X running at 7500 MHz. 144 Hz, 7-inch, 1080p IPS display, up to 500 nits of brightness, 7 millisecond response time, and it does support FreeSync. 2280 SSD up to 2 terabytes, 2 USB 4 ports, micro SD card slot, and it is an SD 4.0 slot, 50 watt-hour battery with 65 watt quick charging, and they're going to be using what they're calling ACER Game Space, so I guess we're going to be able to control performance from there. We'll also have a game launcher built in. Something I like to see on these handhelds. But one thing they haven't announced so far is pricing on the Nitro Blaze 7, and that's really going to make or break this handheld. So what we've got on the market right now is very competitive. Let's say the ROG Ally X, we've got an 80 watt-hour battery, 24 gigs of RAM. Steam Deck is absolutely amazing at the price point that Valve has it at. They offer a couple different storage SKUs to keep that price down, or if you want to go all out with the 1 terabyte model, you can. Obviously, OLED display is going to be king in most areas. So that kind of leaves us with what kind of price point would this be right at? What kind of price point would make you buy this unit here? Obviously, it would have to be lower than, let's say, the ROG Ally X, given the specs here, because battery life, it's hard to beat over there with that 80 watt-hour battery. We're working with a 50 watt-hour battery in this unit here. So running your games at, let's say, a 28 watt TDP, you're not going to see much battery life, even at 15 watts with 50 watt-hour battery, depending on, what everything else draws in this unit. We're looking at, 2 hours of real AAA gameplay out of something like this, given we've only got a 50 watt-hour battery. Personally, I think if they could get this price close to what the Steam Deck OLED is at right now, then they definitely have a chance of selling a lot of these units in the States, but it's really going to come down to that price point. And right now, at the time of making this video, we're not exactly sure what Acer is going to be selling this at. But yeah, either way, I thought this was really interesting, seeing that, it's basically a Handle 5 or the Handle 7 rebranded for Acer over here. They will throw their own software spin on it. Obviously, they've got a totally different look with the decals, but the overall unit itself is definitely exactly the same. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. What price point do you think they need to bring this to market at in order for it to do well, or in order for you to buy one? Let us know down below. And like always, thanks for watching.